All right. Johanan, how are you?
Hey, Matt. How's it going?
Pretty good.
Awesome. I called in about a month ago with a version of a argument from philosophy of mind, and it involved modal logic, which you rejected. And
Yep.
I thought of a way to reformulate the argument without modal logic, and I wanted to try and shoot it off at you guys.
Sure.
And before that, though, just a couple of things, just to kind of like wrap up from where we were before and wrap up a couple of little details I think we can agree on. I think last time you agreed that solipsism, at least as a theory, was conceivable simply because we do it all the time. It's it's internally consistent, right? And so from that, you also then at the end of it, I think you said that the mind could be an emergent property of the brain and not a thing, or like a property or a process, right?
Sure. So my take on solipsism is that I am not aware of, nor do I think there's likely to be a solution to the problem of hard solipsism. That what we identify as the mind, I have no problem at all with it being an emergent property of the brain, but I'm not pretending to be the guy who actually solved the consciousness issues. I mean, my big thing is that it's okay for us to say we don't know and that we don't fully understand these things. It's not okay for us to say that because we don't know or because we don't have a good explanation that we can therefore leap to therefore God, because that's just a fallacy.
Gotcha. So what I was going to try and do is I think I can convince you, I'm going to try and convince you that the mind is at least a thing, and if you want to call it like a material brain, that's totally fine and everything.
Okay, I'm wondering why. I mean, I'm okay with you trying to do this, but let's say you convinced me to go ahead and call the mind a thing, an entity unto itself, which I don't know how you could do, but let's see. What do we get out of that?
You'll see.
Okay.
All right, so basically what I was thinking was, and you actually we did get to the point where if solipsism, we couldn't actually get past solipsism on an epistemic ground, just because, I point out that we always think as solipsists all the time without even realizing it. We can't get past our own mentality, basically.
No, well.
You agreed with it last time, and it's not to say that it's true or anything, just that it's
Can I clarify? Because I watched it last time, but I wasn't involved in the conversation. But just to make sure I understand, I think that people should be more solipsistic in their thinking sometimes, and they're not. I think that that too many people accept reality without ever considering why, and that. So I would tend to say that people more fall on the other side of that spectrum, where nobody thinks solipsistically, and maybe it would be helpful if just for maybe 10 minutes they would give it some thought.
I guess I'm thinking is solipsistically without realizing it in a sense. Like everything that we think of is only in terms of our mind. They don't think of themselves as solipsists.
But but you don't think they walk around accepting reality as reality?
No, they don't. It's kind of like a subconscious thing. It's not that they don't actually think that way, but if they think about their thinking processes, they would realize that.
Okay. Well, I don't want to hold up the conversation. I'm not sure that I'm clear on what you're saying, but
gotcha.
let's let you proceed.
Yeah. So what I was saying was that we can't get past. We think, whether or not we actually think we are, in a solipsistic fashion, that's not the way we'll put it. Even though most people are not epistemically solipsists, they can't get past solipsist type thinking because they can't get past their own mentality. Tracie can't see what's in Matt's mind, Matt can't see what's in Tracie's mind, and none of us can see what's beyond our own, our own sensations of the world.
Well, I don't think that I'm willing to concede that as an absolute. I think it would kind of depend on context. While I can't look into Tracie's mind and experience what she's experiencing, certainly I can see the products of that mind to determine what's going on in there. Now, you still don't solve the brain in a vat problem of whether or not Tracie's real.
And we have machines that can actually show you images and produce things that are in someone's mind. Like you can hook it up to somebody in a computer and read the brain waves and produce what the person is imagining.
So I don't know in what context you're talking. I mean, if you're just saying that
that could be happening.
I can't be Tracie. I can't know exactly what it's like to be Tracie's brain. Okay, big deal.
Yes, we'd agree. I think.
Yeah. Well, what the solipsism is more than that, though. There's also the issue of Tracie mentioned the the MRI machine or wherever you scan the brain, you can see what's going on inside the brain and so forth.
It's not really an MRI. It's actually a computer that you view an image, you think of the image, and the computer will put the image out.
Oh, I think I've heard of those. Yes.
Yeah. So they can actually output, like translate your brainwaves into the imagery, the thoughts that you're having.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is you can't know whether that is based on a material reality or an idealist reality. It could be both ways.
Well, I can't even know that person is real. I mean, I can't even know they exist, right?
You can't even know they exist, even if you get past that,
right.
though. You can't also know that,
but
maybe their mind is
the
real.
same basis of verification that makes me say, okay, I'm forced to accept they exist would force me to accept that this computer is reading the brainwaves, especially because the images they're thinking of are images that they've already seen, that we can verify they just looked at this. Now they're thinking of it, now the computer
What I'm getting at is you can do science on either a materialist basis or an idealist basis, and you get the data either way, basically.
Okay, well, let me let you go on.
All right, so what I was going to get at is that since we can consistently conceive of the world as solipsist, even if it isn't actually so, then that would also mean that the mind would have to be a thing. And if you want to label it like a material brain, that's totally fine. But it would have to be a thing, because otherwise we'd be conceiving of a world with no things in it. If it was only a process or a property, then
I don't mean, I promise I don't mean to just be insulting, but and maybe it's because I'm a simpleton, but why are we using 1,000 words to explain something really simple, which is that I could be a brain in a vat. I have no way of determining that I'm not.
Well, I'm also kind of
and
weird
I am still something that René Descartes resolved ages ago. I think, therefore I am. So at a minimum, I exist on some level. I mean, I don't know why we're dancing around all of that.
I'm not clear on what we're
just
defining
kind of want to
thing
clear
as
that
anyway.
up at the beginning.
Well, yeah, Tracie's question is still valid, which is you want me to kind of agree that the mind is a thing, but you're okay if I just refer to it as a brain.
For now.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So the second thing since we can conceive of the world as solipsistic, and solipsism is a form of, idealism or immaterialism, then logically it would follow that it is at least consistent to think of the mind as immaterial. Not that it's true, but that it's consistent to be. It's a possibility. There's nothing logically implausible about that.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, and we're back to possibilities. So all you're doing is disguising
give me an
modal
example.
logic. And I got white flags flying all over here
But
asking
wait,
me to end the conversation.
I want an example of what are the things in the category that you would put that would be immaterial? Like, what would be other things in that category?
Subjective sensations,
but they're
emotions.
not. How is that immaterial? I mean, it's totally based on physical processes. So how is it immaterial?
The question is we're arguing from a solipsistic starting point.
But then I don't even think that I have a brain.
Right, that's the point.
Well, then what are we talking about?
Well, what I'm getting at is that it's consistent to conceive of the world as immaterial. There's nothing, even if it's wrong, there's nothing inconsistent with that.
Sure.
And there's nothing inconsistent likewise with. Okay, good. You agree with that? Awesome.
Well, I'm saying so what, so we can move on.
Okay, yep, okay. Last little detail to clear up is you'd agree that if two things are the same, A equals B, then everything true of A is also true of B, right?
Well, actually, I'll go with A equals A, because A and B aren't the same.
But no, but it's saying if two random things.
No, two things aren't the same. That's a violation of identity. The only thing that is the same is itself.
Okay, so if I call a plane, well, that's a good example of this.
There are none.
Okay, in logic.
If you clone me right now, there's me and the other me.
But
so
they have two
when you
names.
do
I call you Matt, or I call you Mr. Dillahunty.
That's labels. He's talking about labels now.
Right.
Can you apply different labels to the same thing? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So now let's start to the argument with premise 3 of the argument. Can you conceive that matter could be immaterial? Not matter as we see it, but matter itself. Could that be immaterial?
Are you saying? Well, wait. Are we at the solipsistic level where I'm just a brain in the jar?
No. This is at a purely. This is not the solipsistic level. This is dump solipsism for a second.
Okay.
We're just going to think of matter as a conceptual thing. Could matter?
Well, I think matter is material by definition. I mean, that's what material. Yeah. So I don't think it would be immaterial.
So therefore, matter could not be immaterial by definition.
Right, because it is what is material.
And mind could be immaterial.
But there's confusion here, because what matter is and what my perception or what I intend to label as matter may not be the same thing. For example, if I'm schizophrenic and hallucinate something that doesn't actually exist, my brain for that moment is convinced that there is something that is material, and my brain is in fact wrong.
Right. Then we're back to solipsism, though, and then in that case we can.
Well,
say,
not entirely,
well,
because
no,
we're able to diagnose
yeah.
schizophrenia.
I would say the hallucination exists as a mental
unless
disorder.
the doctor diagnosing is also schizophrenic.
Okay,
now
so
we're back to solipsism
we're back to solipsism. I mean,
right. But I'm just getting at basically what I'm just getting.
Let us know when we switch.
Matter cannot be immaterial by definition on a definitional level.
Yes. Okay. So what? Keep going.
Mind could be immaterial on a definitional level because of the possibility of
I'm not
solipsism.
convinced that that's a possibility.
Yeah, I don't know how it would be. I can't.
Do you have some reason to think that it's possible? I mean, see,
what exists outside of the material world? Like, give me an example of something that's non-material that exists, like.
Well, what I'm trying to do here, this is Tracie. I'm trying to use this argument to demonstrate that actually everything is immaterial. That the mind is immaterial.
Are we agreeing or disagreeing that matter is material? Didn't we just agree that one of your premises is that matter cannot not be
yes,
material?
But what I'm saying is that matter doesn't really exist as such.
Okay, so basically you're arguing for hard solipsism.
Then there's no matter. Yeah, I mean.
No, I'm not arguing for solipsism.
Material is defined as matter.
I wouldn't be arguing for idealism, right?
I tell you what, I think one of the solutions to hard solipsism is that if I was generating all this with my own brain, if I was the only thing that existed, I'd never put myself in this conversation.
Right. Unless you're trying to. Well, okay. I'm not saying solipsism is true, just that it's hypothetically true, and that from that we can deduce that
here's what
certain things about the mind, and from that we can deduce certain things about the nature of reality that produces that mind.
But I guess I get confused because, okay, if we want to look at it and say we're going to have a wholly solipsistic standpoint, then yes, I agree. Material reality is not material, it's not matter, it's all just illusory. But if you're going to say we're going to dump the solipsistic position, well, now matter is that set of material things.
Well, when I said dump solipsism there, I meant in terms of what I was getting at was that the idea of matter being could not be immaterial was simply a definitional thing.
If solipsism is true, then yes, it would be correct to say that matter might not be real and might not exist and might just be the figment of my thoughts.
Right.
Okay. Nothing would exist at that point. All of it would be immaterial.
Well, what I was getting there is that the simple fact that we can put a mind in a solipsistic context tells us something about the properties of the mind.
I don't know how, because it's a fantasy prospect.
Well, no. The point is that it's consistent, whether or not it's a fantasy.
I don't care whether it's consistent.
Dune
I
is
care
consistent,
whether
but it's
true.
still not real. I mean,
Well, none of us are solipsists here. What I'm saying is that the fact that is consistent and the fact that matter could not be consistently in such a world demonstrates the two are not the same.
But we don't know what kind of world a solipsistic world would be because we can't define it.
And you are equivocating between matter and a falsely labeled matter.
We don't know what would be in a solipsistic universe.
No, Johanan, we're done. Yeah. We're done for today. There are other callers waiting. Feel free to email me your argument. And maybe we can get to the bottom of this because, first of all, I don't care if something is consistent as much as I care about whether or not it's true. I don't care about the masturbatory process of going through and figuring out whether or not you can conceive of something. And I don't care about possibilities. Yeah. Is this possibly true? What I care about is it actually demonstrably true?
Yeah, I mean, really what we're saying is in a solipsistic context, like, for example, I've got this iPad, right? And in a solipsistic context, I could say this iPad is immaterial. So, I mean, you could just as easily say that this is as immaterial as a mind by using your own argument, right?
Yeah.
So you're just saying everything could be immaterial, so why would mind even be different? It's as material as this iPad in this universe. If this is completely false, then we are in some solipsistic world. I'm a thing that I don't even know what I am, dreaming all of this.
To wrap up.
This is no more or less material than a mind would be more or less material.
Sure, wrap up.
All right, to wrap up and let you guys off the hook, well, I guess what I was getting at is that I'll close with Max Planck's quote. there is no matter as such, and then this mind is the matrix of all matter. So there is matter, but it's not. There's a difference between ontological matter and matter as, you know, just what we call matter in everyday life.
Well, we have
I was talking
perceptions
about
of
the
it.
ontological level.
I think everybody understands we perceive things, like dogs hear sounds we can't hear, and we see colors that some people can't see, and other animals can't, you know, see differently. And so, yeah, I think we understand that we work under perceptions. That's why we have science to objectify things so that our biases and perceptions don't get in the way.
Speaking of science, though, just when you...
No, you already wrapped up.
All right.
Next time.
Bye-bye. Thank you for calling.